Hello everyone, welcome to ScorchYourToys@AnyMoon.com's review of Bandai's DX RVF 171 Luca custom toy. This was Bandai's third 171 release in October 2014 for 15,120 yen, including tax. It was a Tamashii website exclusive, and that only shipped to Japanese residences. Inside the box, you got the instructions, 2 sets of fist covers for fighter mode, 6 fixed posed hands. You got optional ABS replacement antennas because the PVC ones warp. You have a gun with a swing out latch handle that I'll definitely be talking more about. The pilot figure is the same pilot figure from the Alto release but with a green dot of paint. The display stand has some new twists to it. I'll talk about those. There's also the display stand adapters, obviously. 2 sets of wings with hard points. I have no idea why. As well as that radar dish, or ELINT dish, if you will. One of the things that hops out at you when you first open the toy is that the display stand has a whole lot going on. On the right we have Alto's display stand. It's the pretty basic display stand. On the left you have Luca's. You can see that you've got to take the arm and set it up vertically instead of horizontally, which is going to give you a much taller display piece. But then you also have these little pieces on the side that support these arms that come up and then go into this cradle that fits underneath the fighter mode. Now there's no articulation in the display stand. Everything is just supporting it as you see it, and it's pretty ugly and it really jumps out at you. So I've never been a fan of Bandai's display stands. With the Luca toy, it was a little more important than usual because you're not going to be able to put the toy on its landing gear with that big array on the bottom. And what they gave us is a pretty ugly result, so definitely a bummer right off the bat. When you remove the toy from that contraption, it looks like this, and it is fairly attractive on its own without that big display stand blocking you. You can pivot the dome, you can spin the dome, and when you buy the toy, the dome isn't even attached, so you can obviously pop that dome off if you wanted to. The array below can pivot forward and back, and you can even twist it and then fold it down so that you could land the toy, which is pretty cool to see. And of course, like the other 171 releases, you get landing gears that are integrated. You have to fish them out like so. And you also get the gun. So you're going to be thinking, okay, I've got a gun, but I have a big array on the bottom of my toy. How am I possibly going to use that gun? Well, first we'll show you that you can land the toy with the array still attached, but if you were so inclined, you could also pop this array off and install the gun using only the back connector. So here's this connector here. On other toys, there's a front connector, and you can just pop it right in. On this toy, you would have to open up the legs and fish that through, close the legs back up, and now you've got the gun installed. You can also then pop off the radar array, and you've essentially got an EX 171 toy without the ELINT array. So that's pretty cool that you can get that far. The only big weakness there is that there's this one little piece here that appears to be glued in, so that's not going anywhere, but it really doesn't detract too much. So I was actually pretty pleased to see you can convert it from an RVF 171 to almost a 171 EX. Now, fighter mode's a little bit easier to go through without the arrays included. I've also popped that gun off because with only one connection point, it's pretty loose and floppy in fighter mode. My nits for fighter mode, originally with the EX toy, these pegs here flop out all the time and are super annoying. And if you lose the pegs, you're in really deep doo-doo. So, not happy with those pegs. They got better on the Nightmare Plus toy, and they seem to be pretty solid on the Luca toy, but that was a problem before. Also, these black pieces right in here, on the Nightmare Plus toy, they crack constantly, so something to be aware of if you're watching this and you got a Nightmare Plus toy. Doesn't seem to be a problem on Luca, so far so good there. There's no covers for turbine detail or anything like that. But flipping the toy over, you do have articulated guns next to the cockpit. You also have an opening canopy. You have to fish it up, like that. Open it like so. and then you can pull out the pilot figure. And you may have noticed just now that the nose of the toy doesn't really lock into place, so that is definitely a nit of mine. Here is the Luca pilot figure. Nothing to really write home about, but not terrible either. Here's Alto, same mold, obviously, just a green dot versus a red dot on Luca. The cockpit itself, not a lot of detail, unlike the rest, which has lots of good 171s, no steps, very attractive emblems all over it. So high marks for the detail, just not in the cockpit itself. Close that up. Okay, so going through, the toy itself, rock solid in fighter mode. This thing is latched together 14 different ways of Sunday. Really nice handling toy. Nothing falling apart on you. Holds together very well. Seams are very tight for the most part. Every now and then you'll get the wings to have a little gap right here. There's just something not perfectly lined up in transformation, and that can get a little frustrating. But otherwise, great in fighter mode. Now, I do have a separate transformation video I encourage you to check out, but one thing to note, there are fist covers that I have on the back of the plane right now. They are optional. They are not perfect transformation. You can pop them off and you can see the hand within there. So if you are a stickler for perfect transformation, you won't use those little fist covers, and that's what the back of your plane will look like. If you are going to leave it posed in fighter mode for quite a while, then I would suggest go ahead, pull out those fist covers and use them. This is Gearwalk. Transformation is exactly the same as it is for any other VF-171 toy. Nothing really special to it, with one, maybe two exceptions, depending on how you're feeling. Note that there are very, very delicate spikes on your radar array here, or whatever this array is. So transformation, the first step is to remove the array entirely. Go ahead and transform like you normally would, and then reinstall. Now, you could probably do 90% of the transformation at least, with leaving this thing on there. But again, with those spikes being as delicate as they are, you don't really want to go there. So I would say even sticklers of perfect transformation would be better off popping that array loose. The top array, optional. You can definitely remove it during transformation. Makes popping the arms out a little bit easier. But it's a hardier piece. You don't have to worry about breaking things. So not too much to be concerned with there. In Gearwalk mode, yeah, that array sticks off the back. It's kind of silly, but otherwise, the VF-171 does Gearwalk mode very well. This is where you really see the benefit of these ankles. They are great. They pivot in lots of different ways. You can see lots of metal in there. Not a lot of metal otherwise in the toy, just in a few strategic locations. But these feet do a great job holding the toy up. Now, I don't have a gun on the toy. That's because if I had the radar array in fighter mode, I wouldn't have had a gun in fighter mode. Obviously, you could put the gun in the hand at this point. Also, I have put the hard points on the wings, or the wings with hard points on the toy. You just remove these pegs, pop them in. Once you have them on, I don't know why you'd ever remove them. Bandai included them. They probably should have just not included the slick wings instead. The thought was that if this toy had sold well, we would have gotten a ghost set, but I'm guessing that it did not sell well, so we did not get armored or ghost pieces. Here is the display stand. I've put the Gearwalk adapter on it now. You just want to fish it through, and you'll find it kind of lines right up. Again, nothing you could do with it when it's on the display stand. There's no pivot points anywhere. The good thing for Gearwalk mode, though, these really delicate little bits over here obviously are going to be very well protected on a display stand. If you accidentally bump the toy over while not using a display stand, it seems like there's a pretty good chance you're going to snap something off. All right, let's continue on and check out Metroid Mode. Now, I am very close to Metroid Mode, but there is a little caveat here, a little wrinkle specific to the RVF-171. And again, it has to do with that array. You've removed it for transformation. Now you're ready to install it. You're going to go ahead and bring it down like this. You're going to pivot this little antenna down. It actually rotates. That's nice. But then you got to go fish this piece out. And this is a lock that's going to go into the top. It's got dimples, little bulges on the side. So once it goes in, it's going to lock this array into its position, and it provides a slot for the backpack to attach by. So we can lift the backpack up here. This might not be the easiest thing to show, but this is where the array attaches. So we're going to go ahead and attach it. I'm going to obviously have a lot of fine-tuning to do after I'm done here, but let's get that in there. Okay, that's in place. And then the backpack should come down and attach. Let's make sure I haven't messed anything up too bad. Okay. So then there we go. We can attach the backpack. It kind of clicks into place. Close those wings up. You can see where I don't like these pegs so much because the wings get loose. Okay, and there you go. Now your backpack is in proper position. Obviously a little more slanted back than your average 171. Got a tail now, but still holding together pretty well. Metroid Mode on the VF171 toys is always a little frustrating for me, and that's because there's a bunch of things that are very fiddly. For example, these intakes here, if you just touch them, they will close. You won't notice it until you've taken some pictures or whatever, and it's frustrating. Also, this little black thing at the bottom of the cockpit right here, if you go to tighten something up, it's not uncommon to push that thing up, and then you got to fish it back down again. It's attached to the cockpit. It just gets frustrating, as you are currently seeing. So I can pull that down there. The legs are on kind of a weird mechanism. Never quite has enough stability to it once you lift it up. So you can certainly have no problem posing the toy and making it look really cool. It just doesn't give you a very rewarding feeling when you're handling it. You can see that backpack array kind of shooting out the back there, but everything is held together pretty tightly, so no problems. Articulation is definitely a strong point. You can still spin that array around. You can also move the shoulders every which way, and you can pivot the arm out at the shoulder. Head is a ball joint. You can do whatever you want with it, which is kind of fun. Below the shoulder, there is a rotation point. Then there is an elbow, a double jointed elbow mechanism with a little left-right angle to it. You get down to the hands, which are ball joints. Well, they're not actually ball joints. They're a pivot at the wrist. Let's go ahead and pull one off. They're a pivot at the wrist and on a peg. Now this is also how you would replace one of the articulated hands with a fixed posed hand, but the articulated hands are pretty decent, so I never really feel the need to do that. There is an odd locking mechanism here as part of transformation. That's how you can slide the hand out and then lock it in the extended position. I am not a big fan of that lock and how that works. I would rather it just kind of lock like feet do. So that's a little funky to me. Going down, there's no real waist to speak of. You go straight to the hips, where you have the ability to come way forward, way back. There goes that black thing again. And then gear walk joint underneath. Then you have the knees and a twist, which you can extend the leg, which is part of gear walk. So you got a little bit better range of motion, including that twist. And I've already told you about the feet and how excellent they are. Like you can twist them up, down. Love the feet on these toys. They really give you a lot of play value for crazy positions. So I'm not going to bother pulling that thing out again right now, but articulation overall, very good. Metroid Mode itself, a little fiddly. In Metroid Mode, the stand once again leaves a little bit to be desired here. You can see it kind of latches on right around the metal swing bar from the leg. It does have just enough clearance from that back array, so everything comes together all right. But again, you can't do anything with it once it's on that display stand, so you just pick a cool pose and then prop it up. And again, the benefit is you know it's not going to fall down and break off any spikes in the back. Luca was the third VF171 after Alto, who came first and had some stiffness issues. I couldn't get him ever to lock quite perfectly in place, and I had those wing pegs that constantly popped off and frustrated the crap out of me. Then came the Nightmare Plus toy, which had quite a few issues. It had a leg that fell off on me. You can see I've also lost a chest flap. I really wish those locked in some way, shape, or form, either forward or back, and then actually into the toy would be nice. Other people had the little black triangles that are in the armpits right now or underneath fighter mode crack or be broken already in the package. So lots and lots of durability issues with this toy, which made it very questionable for a lot of people as to whether or not they should borrow or bother buying Luca's toy. I am happy to report that I have no broken triangles, and the toy handles better than the Alto did. The wing pegs are not popping out on me like constantly like the Alto toy did. So in those regards, all very good things. So assuming that it remains durable, do I recommend it? If you're a big fan of the VF-171, sure. If you're a fan of Elite Seeker type vehicles, also sure. For me, it's much better in fighter and Garewalk modes than it is in Metroid mode. It just doesn't lock together as firmly as I'd like it to, and I find it very fiddly, as I have stated. So, the toy stands about 25.5 centimeters tall, 25 centimeters depending on what you do with the ankles. In fighter mode, it's 27 centimeters, which makes it perfectly 1/60 scale, so for those of you who are scale nuts, this should fit in your collection quite nicely. All right, check out my full review on anymoon.com, and as always, thanks for watching.